شبیر اگر تیری عزاداری نہ ہوتی، شبیر کا مقصد جو سمجھ لیتا زمانہ، شبیر کا مقصد جو سمجھ لیتا زمانہ، قرآن کو سمجھنے میں یہ دشواری نہ ہوتی، شبیر اگر تیری عزاداری نہ ہوتی۔ کیا فائدہ ان آنکھوں کا رہ جاتا ذرا سوچو، کیا فائدہ ان آنکھوں کا رہ جاتا ذرا سوچو، ان آنکھوں میں مولا کی جو غم خاری نہ ہوتی، شبیر اگر تیری عزاداری نہ ہوتی۔ شبیر کے روزے پہ کچھ روز جو رہتے، شبیر کے روزے پہ کچھ روز جو رہتے، تم کو کبھی جنت کی، تم کو کبھی جنت کی طلبگاری نہ ہوتی، شبیر اگر تیری عزاداری نہ ہوتی۔ اور اسی مناسبت سے 2 روز بھی جنت میں رہنا ہمیں مشکل تھا، 2 روز بھی جنت میں رہنا ہمیں مشکل تھا، زہرا تیرے بچوں کی جو سرداری نہ ہوتی، شبیر اگر تیری عزاداری نہ ہوتی۔ آخری شعر، غازی تیرے جیسا جو علمدار نہ ہوتا، غازی تیرے جیسا جو علمدار نہ ہوتا، دنیا میں علم ہوتے، دنیا میں علم ہوتے، علمداری نہ ہوتی، شبیر اگر تیری عزاداری نہ ہوتی، مظلوم کی دنیا میں، مظلوم کی دنیا میں طرفداری نہ ہوتی، شبیر اگر تیری عزاداری نہ ہوتی۔ درود پڑھ دے محمد و آل محمد پہ، اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔ Now I would like to request Brother Fida Hussain to recite few words of salam. پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
یا حسین جی صحیح ہے. السلام علیکم. طوفیہ علی مدد. سب سے پہلے ہم تعزیت پیش کرتے ہیں امام زمانہ علیہ السلام کی خدمت اقدس میں، اور آپ مومنین کرام کو، سادات الزام کو، جناب ابو طالب علیہ السلام کی، انہی کی شان میں بس ایک سلام، صلوات پر محمد و آل محمد. کیا بتاؤں آپ کو کیا کیا ابو طالب کا ہے، کیا بتاؤں آپ کو کیا کیا ابو طالب کا ہے. ارے رب کعبہ کی قسم کعبہ ابو طالب کا ہے، کیا بتاؤں آپ کو کیا کیا ابو طالب کا ہے. یہ شرف کونین میں تنہا ابو طالب کا ہے، یہ شرف کونین میں تنہا ابو طالب کا ہے. بھئی کل کا جو مولا ہے وہ بیٹا ابو طالب کا ہے، کیا بتاؤں آپ کو کیا کیا ابو طالب کا ہے. شکر رب کا یہ سلیقہ کون سکھلاتا بھلا، ارے شکر رب کا یہ سلیقہ کون سکھلاتا بھلا. ارے سورہ الحمد میں لہجہ ابو طالب کا ہے، کیا بتاؤں آپ کو کیا کیا ابو طالب کا ہے. ارے شیخ جی بتلائیے جس میں نبی پلتے رہے، ارے شیخ جی بتلائیے جس میں نبی پلتے رہے. گھر ابو سفیان کا ہے یا ابو طالب کا ہے، کیا بتاؤں آپ کو کیا کیا ابو طالب کا ہے. ارے دیکھتا ہوں جب علم آتی ہے یہ دل سے صدا، ارے دیکھتا ہوں جب علم آتی ہے یہ دل سے صدا، کہ پرچم عباس پر پنجاب طالب کا ہے، کیا بتاؤں آپ کو کیا کیا ابو طالب کا ہے. ارے رب کعبہ کی قسم کعبہ ابو طالب کا ہے, کیا بتاؤں. صلوات پر محمد آل محمد. یہ کلام بزبان میر حسن میر بھائی سے لے کے پڑھ رہا ہوں. شاعر کا نام وہاں بھی نہیں ہے تو میں یہاں بھی یعنی نہیں لے سکا. بہرحال مالک جزائے خیر عطا فرمائے جنہوں نے یہ کلام لکھا. صلوات پر محمد.
MashaAllah. Please recite one more loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now I would like to request our speaker, our honorable brother Muhammad Nasser, to please say some words for today's occasion. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala.
This one here. Yeah. Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين طه وياسين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتلهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكر فضائلهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين والذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صلوات. First and foremost, I would like to provide our condolences to the Prophet, to Amir al-Mu'mineen, to the Imam alayhi salam, and to our living Imam, whose grandfather's day is today, the day Hazrat Abu Talib is known to have attained Wafat. As we all know, Hazrat Abu Talib is known as the Muhsin of Islam, the one who did Ihsan of Islam. So we will take a look at that. We hold these gatherings for multiple reasons. One reason is, of course, to remember the people who have been chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be in somewhat representative of Allah. Some have been chosen at very high level, but some have been also chosen at that level where they have been given responsibility, or for whom in their backs have been given the purity of those seeds whose purity cannot be defined. Hazrat Abu Talib is one of that person who is in his back was given the purity of Imam Ali, that all you know what is the status of Imam Ali, and we've recited this several times. But just to imagine what Abu Talib carried in his back is itself a sign of that he was chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a kafir cannot carry something like that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we will not debate on what our brothers say about Abu Talib. However, we will establish the status of Abu Talib in what he acted upon and what he showed publicly. But I will give you one example today. If at all a person saying what they say about Hazrat Abu Talib, which is not even repeatable, and if you ask them, let's say today, did they hear, so they know that, for example, Hazrat Isa is alive. Nobody in the Muslim world can deny that Hazrat Isa is alive. But they did not hear him say the Shahada, did they? But can they call him a non-Muslim? They can't call him a non-Muslim. So there are several ways of establishing one is a Muslim. Nabi Ibrahim was a Muslim. He did not recite the Shahada the way we recite the Shahada today. But he had it in him. He knew who the Prophet was. So let's not debate that. We all know what it is. But so that is one way. We remember the awliya of Allah and what they did. And then we learn from the awliya of Allah. Especially, of course, the ma'asumeen are the ma'asumeen. But in this particular case, a non-ma'asum. We learn from what they did. And because they were chosen, and because we know they attained salvation, we learn from what they did, and we will try to learn from some of the lessons that were presented by Hazrat Abu Talib in his life, especially one which I think I found that many of us may not have heard. I certainly did not hear the whole story, so I plan to share that with you today, inshallah, and maybe that is the gift that we can provide today from our hero, Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. But I'd like to also challenge another thing. We usually come here and we usually say, generally speaking, we say, oh, the Muslims are oppressed. But are the Muslims oppressed? Like generally we think all Muslims are oppressed, but not all Muslims are oppressed. There are some Muslims actually who oppress instead of being oppressed. So we have categories of Muslims. I don't think all Muslims are oppressed. Some are oppressed. Some are indifferent about the oppression. They don't really mind whoever is oppressed, whoever is oppressing. Some fight against the oppression, but they are not oppressed. And some indeed are oppressed. I could say, though, generally speaking, that if you take the amount of people in the world and categorize them and say which category is oppressed most, then we would say yes, the Muslims are oppressed most. And out of the Muslims, I would say that the followers of Ahlul Bayt are oppressed most. But generally, the Muslims are in all these categories. And these categories have existed in time, in nations, since the time Nabi Adam came and his two children came. One was oppressed, one was not oppressed. However, when we look at oppression, we have to look at why someone oppressed. And the reason if he is oppressed is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then his oppression is of any weight. But if his oppression is maybe because his action himself was so low that he was oppressed out of the society because he, for example, acted badly as well, then his oppression is his being oppressed is of no weight. Sometimes, yes, you need to help those that are oppressed, whatever their weight is, but then the weight of what your oppression is as it elevates into the spiritual world is different. It depends on what you are oppressed about and what is behind that oppression, what is the rule of that oppression. I would say one person that was oppressed first in life in this matter of Islam was Abu Talib, and inshallah we will discuss that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So some general statements that inshallah we will cover today about Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salam. So Abu Talib, I think the last but one son, because Hazrat Abdullah was, I think, the last one, and Abu Talib was probably older than him, if I'm not mistaken, but they were the brothers of the same mother. And after Abdul Muttalib, Abu Talib, his demeanor, Abu Talib's situation, Abu Talib's position was strong in the Bani Hashim. He was regarded as someone strong, someone whose word was of weight, someone whose courage was being respected, and one whose swordship was also being respected. And then we will cover Abu Talib's certainty on the Prophet, and then Abu Talib's how he was oppressed. And a key thing that we have to learn today, inshallah, will be how did he react on that oppression? Yes, he was oppressed. He was strong. He was a good swordsmanship. He was a person who had weight. But when he was oppressed, after having all these characteristics, how did he react to this oppression? And that's a lesson for us. And then we will take all this and say, was this a coincidence? Or was this because he enjoyed the status of being a proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself? And that we also, then we will talk about one other thing, inshallah, in that particular light. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So in history, I have not read, and might be wrong, someone can correct me if they have read, but prior to the coming of the Holy Prophet, neither was Abdul Muttalib, nor was Abu Talib, nor was Bani Hashim really an oppressed group. It enjoyed a very good respect within the Arab community, within the Quraysh. And so the oppression on this particular family started only after the Ba'that of the Prophet. And so the reason of the oppression now is clear. The oppression is not because they did something wrong. The oppression was because they supported the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the acceptance of this state by Abu Talib was for the sake of the Prophet. He could have left. Why am I tackling this oppression um, in something that I don't believe in if the brothers are right. You wouldn't. And we will confirm that what his belief was through his action and through his words. There are some places where his words are not being exposed, and that is why some of us don't have that argument sometimes against our brothers. There is another thing of why do our brothers do this to Abu Talib. We have to understand that. In Islam, in the jurisprudence of Islamic law, although some pluralists will not agree with me, but it is I will narrate from a verse of the Quran. The iman is the condition of your amal getting accepted. If iman is not there, then all the action you do may be valid in this world, maybe have some weight in this world, or you may get that benefit of some worldly affairs, but your amal's conversion to be spiritual weighted in the realm of in spirituality to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is null and void. Right? And the verse of the Quran that specifies this, if you actually, there was a lecture just at JCC last Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, on this particular topic as well, and it was the Isal Sawab of someone else, but Brother Khalil Jafar recited this, and he explained this in pretty much depth terms, and he also quoted this ayah. So if you are interested in that, of course, it's a good listen for you all. But the ayah is in Surah Fatir. من كان يريد العزة فلله العزة جميعا. He who desires power, all power belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the sort of the premise of the ayah. So how do you get this power? How do you get this izzah? Of this izzah also does not come if you don't have iman based on this ayah. But then this ayah goes on. إِلَيْهِ يَسْعَدُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ. Okay. Unto him, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, good words ascend. وَعَمَلُ الصَّالِحِ يَرْفَعُهُ. And the pious deed gets also weighted, or gets the fadila of the amal, and then it raises itself. يَرْفَعُهُ, by him. So Allah raises it. Why? Because the conduit that it has come from has iman, has that qualification, has that password, so to speak, to get to that level in spirituality. But if you don't have that kalimut tayyib, then your amal does not raise itself to the realm that it is accepted. And so we will stop here. But the attack on Abu Talib is because of that. Then all his actions become null and void. Even in the Ahl Sunnah, this is accepted, that if you don't have iman, to them iman is only up to the fact of Muhammadun Rasulullah, of course not Aliun Waliullah, but that is their perspective. But if you don't have that, then whatever you do is null and void. And this is something that is accepted by all the schools of thought within the Muslim umbrella. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that is their reasoning. And therefore that reasoning has to be totally void. It has to be out of the essence of Abu Talib, so that Abu Talib is recognized and his actions are recognized. So let's go to Abu Talib's words even before Ba'asat. So as we know, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam chose Abu Talib when Abdul Muttalib passed away, or he was passing away, and he called his sons and said, who will take care of the Prophet? And they sat, and then the Prophet was let to decide on himself who he wanted as his caretaker, and he went towards Hazrat Abu Talib. So Abu Talib took care of him. And a time came now when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam decided that he wanted to get married, and he wanted to get married to Khadija. So it is said here in one riwayah from Al-Kafi, narrated by Aba Abdullah, our sixth Imam, of how this thing happened. And he says, قال لما أراد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أن يتزوج خديجة بنت خويلد. So as when our Prophet decided or had the irada to go and marry Bibi Khadija bint Khuwaylid, Aqbala proceeded Abu Talib with his Ahl al-Bayt and a few people from the Quraysh until دخل على ورقة bin Nawfal. So they went to the uncle because Khadija was still in the guardianship of the uncle, which also opens a big chapter of how old Khadija was. Another chapter that the history has, whether Khadija was really old or not old, because she was still in the guardianship of Warqa ibn Nawfal. And you know from the law, there is an age where you kind of become, you're still under guardianship of someone, but after some age, that guardianship goes away. So that in itself is something that you guys know. I like to take these words and analyze it to the nth degree of how words are then provides the situation, as we did for the wasiyah of Imam Hussein the last time we spoke. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so as Abu Talib enters into the presence of Nawfal, he recites this. فقال, he says, الحمد لرب هذا البيت الذي جعلنا من زرع إبراهيم وذرية إسماعيل. He says, praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which Rabb, which sustainer, هذا البيت, meaning he has just identified or accepted or recognized that he lives in a place where there is the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the sustainer. Alladhi ja'alna, who has given us, who has provided us from the zara, from the seed of Ibrahim. Why Ibrahim? Why doesn't he say Lat and Uzza here? Min zar'i Ibrahim wa zurriyat Ismail. He even knows that he comes not only from Ibrahim, from Ishaq, no, Ibrahim from zurriyati Ismail. وَأَنزَلْنَا حَرَمًا آمِنًا. What Ibrahim was told, that this is now haraman aminan. وَأَنزَلْنَا حَرَمًا آمِنًا, and he has given us haraman aminan. وَجَعَلْنَا, and he has given us وَجَعَلْنَا الْحُكَّامَ عَلَى النَّاسِ, and he has given us, Allah has given us the authority to have authority over the people, as the rulers over the people. وَبَارِكْ لَنَا فِي بِلَادِنَا, and blessed us in our land, الَّذِي نَحْنُ فِيهِ, in which we are. It is very aligned to Surah Quraysh. If we read Surah Quraysh, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لإيلاف قريش. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, you all know the translation. لإيلاف قريش, for the protection of the Quraysh. Now, of course, these are all Quraysh. إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف, their protection during trading caravans in the winter and the summer. So why is Allah saying this in Quran? You see, the Quraysh decided to live in the area of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In as much as hard it was to live there, they lived and they took care of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In terms, Allah is saying, I'm giving protection to them. How? I'm letting them in protection. They always made 2 caravan trips. And if you were here for the movie last night, the part of the beginning part, you will see that Abu Sufyan is telling Abu Talib that by bringing this one God, we are losing business in the caravans that we are doing across, going to Yemen and going north. And they were so worried about their income because that was the only way that they got income. There was no income in Mecca itself. So they were doing this trading, going north, and of course Khadija was also a trader, as we know, going north and south in winter and in summer, and this was actually feeding the area of Mecca. And the protection of going towards these 2 areas was provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالسَّيْفِ. But out of this protection, what is your responsibility? فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. So let them serve the Lord of the house, which is what Abu Talib is saying in his Alhamdulillahi Rabbi Hadal Bayt. That I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is this sustainer, who is sustaining us with this protection because he is the Rabb Hadal Bayt. So he is reciting, as our brother said, he Alhamd was the qasida of the Ahlul Bayt. He just recited, of Abu Talib. The words of Abu Talib came in the surah of Alhamd. Here the words of Abu Talib is coming in surah Quraysh. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And therefore, just to end the surah, it says, الَّذِي أَطْعَمَهُم مِّن جُوعٍ وَآمَنَهُم مِّنْ خَوْفٍ. Who feeds them against hunger and gives them security against fear, which is also regarding this. Some tafasir said, coming of the Prophet eliminated these caravans because people came from Hajj and that gave them protection. But most of the Mufassirin agree that this is the protection that was given to the Quraysh even before the advent of the Prophet. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I know this is Wafat, but we are going to talk about this khutbah and this event of this proposal of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because there is much on what Abu Talib is saying in this proposal that we want to emphasize. So then, as he says this and he gives this, now he defends his nephew, and he says that this nephew of mine is one that you will not get anyone in Quraysh to match him, nor is there any example of a person like him in Quraysh who has the greatness of him. And then this is all in Arabic, but I don't want to go through each and every part, so I will end with one. The conclusion, he says, وَلَا عِدْلَ لَهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ. He doesn't only say Quraysh, he says وَلَا عِدْلَ. There is no equal person like him in the entire creation. This is Abu Talib's words. Why? Why does he identify him there? Why can he, we said, for example, in the wasiyah of Imam Hussein, he's going and he's saying, I am going in and I'm going to do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahyan il Munkar. Who can go out and say, I am going to do this Amr bil Ma'ruf, have that confidence and say, I am right? To say I am right has some arrogance behind it. But this is not the arrogance of the Ahlul Bayt, because they have been blessed with the right. This is kind of saying, this my nephew has no comparison in creation. That is a very, very heavy statement. Unless Abu Talib knew this is the Prophet, this is the chosen one, this is the Sayyidul Anbiya, he cannot say something like this. This is in itself in the word. So that's why I'm saying, if Jesus came today, you wouldn't ask him, have you recited the Shahada? Oh, you're not a Muslim because you haven't recited the Shahada. It is known that all the Nabis, without reciting the Shahada, were Muslims. Salu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So if you can get time, inshallah, this is a very interesting um, incident that happened. And here it also says that some decided that, because what happened then was the Abu Talib said, well, this is my nephew, but he is not as rich, and wealth does not come. Wealth is not something that is important, etc., etc. And as soon as he said this, he said, if he doesn't have mahar, I will cover the mahar from my wealth, Abu Talib said. And sort of after this very, very sort of awing statement, Waraka, the uncle of Bibi Khadija, was shocked, and so he did not respond. And so before he responded, Bibi Khadija responded and said, even if Abu Talib does not provide the mahar, I will provide the mahar on my money. And I'm asking the uncle of the Prophet to go and do nahar of a camel, to go and sacrifice a camel on this occasion, and I accept this proposal. And then when she said like that, the Quraysh within who were there said, oh, how can a woman give the mahar for a man? And this is when Abu Talib became angry and said, she has accepted. We have not said this. She has accepted on our account because there is love between the Prophet and Khadija and the Prophet. And therefore, we have not said this, and he got angry. And the riwayah says that the anger of Abu Talib was something that the Quraysh were not willing to. They were afraid of the anger of Abu Talib. Let's just put it that way. So that comes to my previous statement that before Ba'asat, Abu Talib was in a very strong position. And for him to accept oppression needed a reason of why he accepted oppression, being in that strong position that he was. Salu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And another salawat. So this is one part of the life of Abu Talib that we have to study. He was definitely a person that not only was a Muslim, but had the full ma'rifat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And so Allah says in Surah Alam Yajidka Yatiman Fa'awa, that when we found you an orphan, we provided this protection. And this protection, as a lot of Mufassirin in the Shia, of course, relate this protection to Abu Talib. So if we have to just dissect that, the choice of the Prophet to stay with Abu Talib is one. You see what kind of opinion Abu Talib had on the Prophet already. And the protection of Abu Talib of the Prophet, the going to the place of Abu Talib behind the mountains of Mecca for 3 years, to take that responsibility. He did not flinch and say, I'm taking me, my family, my sons for the protection of the Prophet. Why am I doing this? Why am I going through this? And he faced some of that was obvious, but that is the Irani sort of view of what happened. So I'm not going to quote that because it may or may not be true. But you could see how he was ridiculed in that movie in some case. So it may have happened in that way, or it may have in the worst way. We don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. But they did not treat them very well. And they were at the point of, in some cases, at the point of actually attacking the Prophet when the miracle was shown of the Prophet. So how did Abu Talib react on this staying of the Prophet? So the Prophet comes to him and says, You know that contract that they have hung on the wall of the Kaaba? Well, everything has been eaten except for basmala. If you do not believe in someone, and someone has to tell you that my God has told me this, go and you challenge them after you've been ridiculed by all the Quraysh, how confident would you be to just walk away and say, my nephew is telling me this, go ahead and do it? You have to have certainty that what the Prophet is saying is nothing but the truth. And that is the certainty of Abu Talib. Abu Talib had that certainty prior, and why not? And he went and he said, my nephew is saying this is happening. You can open the envelope or whatever it was tied in, and you will see that my nephew does not speak a lie. This is his words. My nephew, of course, from the reputation of the Prophet, but even at this point in time, my nephew does not speak a lie. So this is the certainty of Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salam. And therefore, Allah mentions him in the Quran in such a way. Of course, Allah then mentions another uncle. So it's not all uncles that He mentions in a flowery manner in Surah Tabbat. Of course, Allah mentions another uncle of the Prophet, but in a very condemning way. So it is not that only because they are related to the Prophet that everybody has a flowery thing. The certainty and the action and the commitment of Abu Talib deserves him to have this kind of respect and poetry in the Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We know from our scholars, our ulama, that the tawfiq that we get as Muslims is not a matter of coincidence. It is a matter of actions. As we say, for example, that we have to thank our mothers that today we have the wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib in us. We have to thank him for their concern about their taharat. We have to thank them on the concern about how they were careful in mating, so that we today have the ability to love Ali ibn Abi Talib. It's not a coincidence, right? And for them, for the marhumin or the mothers that have passed away, and for the fathers marhumin, we should recite one Fatiha. Bismillah. And therefore, for everything that we do, we have to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that is giving us tawfiq, but we have to be careful. For example, you will see the ulama, of course, most of the ulama, inshallah, they do not commit sin, but some ulama also do not commit kaharat. The makruh items they do not commit. And they will tell you that if they commit something makruh, the next day that they will miss something of the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they did something makruh the previous night or the previous day. So the tawfiq that you get of doing stuff. I was at the majlis of the treasurer, for example, and I take these points and I sometimes remember it. The treasurer had a majlis in Muharram, if I'm not mistaken, and we had an Irani scholar from Brampton. And he mentioned a very good point, which was a lesson for me. He said that we always say that we do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah accepts it. But sometimes we say Allah rejects it. And he says, no, Allah does not reject the dua. His interpretation of that, there may be many interpretations, but this interpretation has validity. And he said it is not only that, it is that He doesn't give you the opportunity to do dua. That is the way He rejects your dua. It is not that you do not have the need. It is not that you do not have the desire to do a dua. But He doesn't give you the opportunity to sit and speak it to Him. That is the way He rejects it. So you don't actually do it. But when you do it, He doesn't reject it. So this is the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But again, the point is here is the tawfiq of getting something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in itself a reasoning of your actions, sort of a guarantee of you've done something good, therefore I give you this opportunity. Now we look at the opportunity of what Abu Talib has got. 100% of the Bani Hashim that were martyred in Karbala were sons of Abu Talib. 100%. This tawfiq doesn't come just like that. We also said when we covered the wasiyah of Imam Hussein, we said, proudly Imam Hussein said, Ana Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. If his grandfather was not an authority that should be in his wasiyah, a wasiyah that changed the entire notion of Islam and kept Islam alive, Imam would not have mentioned his name. Imam mentioned his name because of the validity he understands of his grandfather Abu Talib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And therefore, I have no doubt in my mind that if we recite the zikr of Abu Abdullah, other than reciting the zikr of Abu Talib as he passed away, that he will be more honored that we are reciting the zikr and the tragedy of a madloom that has no equal. It is the time, almost tomorrow, inshallah, we'll recite the Mi'raj, but it is also time when, on the 28th night, Imam leaves Medina. So I'll recite a little bit before I go to the main Mathaib in Karbala. The Imam again took the sons of Abu Talib to protect him when he went to meet the governor of Medina. But as he left the governor's house and went back home, he knew he now has to leave Medina for the last time, leave the area of the grave of the Prophet. The Prophet who used to keep him in his shoulders, the Prophet who used to come down off the mimbar to pick up Hussein and put him on his lap. The Prophet who used to also smell Hussein and said, I smell the fragrance of heaven from my Hassanain. Now Hussein goes to the grave of his grandfather and says, oh grandfather, your community has turned its back on me. I do not want to go. Take me, oh grandfather. Take me with you. And what does the Prophet respond? The Prophet responds, and of course the dream of Hussein is not a dream, it's the reality of the communication between the Prophet and Imam. And the Prophet tells him, oh Hussein, Allah wants to see you martyred and wants to see your family martyred and part of your women taken captive from town to town. That is the only way you will gain your station in what the station has been provided for you. Imam does not leave the grave to go home. Imam leaves the grave and goes to his mother. Imam, it is said, approaches his mother like a baby, approaches the mother, approaches the grave of the mother. History does not have what he speaks to his mother, but it is likely that his mother said, oh Hussein, it is not you that are going alone, I am coming with you. Imam leaves Medina, spends time in Mecca, and at the end reaches Karbala. And on the day of Ashura, after the martyrdom of his companions, Imam picks his own son as the first martyr, as a test of saying, oh Allah, I am picking, as we know, the person resembling the Prophet in his walk, in all his behavior, as well as in his physical qualities. He represents the Prophet or resembles the Prophet, and I am sending him on the battlefield. He says this in his telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm calling you witness that I am doing this. But before Ali Akbar goes to the battlefield, Imam tells him, "Oh Ali, first go and say farewell to your aunt and your sisters, because they will not see you again." Ali Akbar enters the khayma of Bibi Zainab and says, "Oh my aunt, oh my Fui, I have been permitted to go." So Bibi Zainab tells him, "Are you going to just stand there, or are you going to sit down with me?" Ali Akbar sits down. Bibi Zainab says, "I want to see you. This face that I took care of you from the time of your birth is going." For a while, they spend some moments, and Ali Akbar then stands up, bids farewell to the ladies, and leaves. But as he is leaving, he hears a faint voice behind. Says, "Oh my brother, where are you going?" It was Ali Zain al-Abidin calling him and saying, "How are you leaving me without farewell?" He bids farewell to his brother. They hug, and Ali Akbar goes. He fights valiantly. And we know he comes back and asks for water. This is one flower of Abu Talib that fell on that day. As he fell, he called on his father and said, "Oh father, I am being quenched now by my grandfather." Because he knew the father was concerned after he asked for water that he wasn't quenched. There's another flower of Abu Talib that passed away that day, or that was martyred that day. And that flower of Abu Talib broke the back of Imam. He would not get permission. This was the first one in Bani Hashim to go and kill. That was almost the last. He would not find permission that Imam would give him until the moment there was no one left. And Abul Fadl Abbas comes to Imam and says, "Oh Imam, nobody has left. I want to go and fight." Imam says, "But if you go and fight, my army will be gone." I don't recall Abbas objecting to the Imam at any point, but at this point he provided a suggestion. He said, "But oh Imam, there's nobody here. There's nobody on the left, nobody on the right. What army are you talking about?" Incidentally, the cry of Al-Atash comes from the corners of the Khayyam. And so Imam tells Hazrat Abul Fadl, "Go and see if you can get water for the children." It is said that the Imam did not give Abul Fadl the right to go and fight, but the right to go and bring water. Which is why you see that there is not much of fighting going on when Abu Fadl is in the battlefield. You see him defending himself, but not offensively fighting. Why Imam did this after even the dua of Amirul Mu'mineen saying, "I want a son who is going to represent me in Karbala," but then Abu Fadl being restrained in such a manner, only Allah knows. Maybe it was the courage of Al-Fadl that is being tested. That is what is giving him today the title of Babul Hawaij. Even the Babul Hawaij of Musa ibn Ja'far, in the words of Musa ibn Ja'far himself, is Abul Fadl al-Abbas. So Abul Fadl goes. And it is said that this water that he picked up from the river and he did not drink, there was no water to quench the thirst of Abbas. Abbas was to be quenched by the thirst of martyrdom, because he came to the battlefield with the thirst of martyrdom, not with the thirst of water. He leaves the water. And the part that today also bewilders me is, even after his two arms were cut, Abu al-Fadl did not say, I'm not going to stay in the field and I'm going to go back to the Khayyam. He turned back to go and get water even after both of his arms were cut. And and then Abu al-Fadl falls. The main thing is how he falls is a matter of amazement. And the Imam calls, oh, Abu al-Fadl, your falling has broken my back. But this was the flower of Abu Talib. This is the certainty of Abu Talib inherited in the children of Abu Talib, expressed by Aliun al-Akbar and Abu al-Fadl Abbas in defending their Imam of the time. Ala la'natullahi ala al-qawmi al-zalimin wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. Matame Hussein.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. کر کر کے یاد سکینہ کو بغداد کا قیدی روتا ہے، کر کر کے یاد سکینہ کو بغداد کا قیدی روتا ہے، کر کر کے یاد بازار شام، بازار شام ہے آنکھوں میں سجاد کا لب پر نوحہ ہے، ہائے کر کر کے یاد سکینہ کو بغداد کا قیدی روتا، کر کر کے خود قید جہاں پر کاظم ہے، ہر دن ہے رات کے جیسا، زندان ہے یہ بھی تنگ مگر ہر رات رضا کا بابا، زندان شام، زندان شام جو یاد آئے دیوار سے سر ٹکراتا ہے، اے کر کر کے یاد سکینہ کو بغداد کا قیدی روتا ہے، کر کر ہے دور نگاہوں سے لیکن اس کا بھی جواں ہے بیٹا، جب یاد رضا کی آتی ہے رخ کر کے کرب و بلا کا، زخمی اکبر، زخمی اکبر کے سینے کے نظروں سے بوسے لیتا ہے، ہائے کر کر کے یاد کر کر کے یاد سکینہ جب شام کے سائے بڑھتے ہیں بڑھتی ہے صدائے گریا ایک درد سا دل میں اٹھتا ہے کہتے ہیں تڑپ کر مولا ہے ساتھ رضا ہے ساتھ رضا کے معصومہ زندہ میں سکینہ تنہا ہے ہائے کر کر کے یاد سکینہ کو کر کر کے یاد مظلوم پرائے دیس میں ہے ڈھارس ہے دل کو پھر بھی مل جائے گا مجھ کو غسل و کفن بستی ہے مسلمانوں کی مظلوم حسین کی غربت پر دل خون کے آنسو روتا ہے ہائے کر کر کے یاد کر کر کے یاد ہے 14 برس سے قید مگر پھر بھی وہ یہی ہے کہتا عابد کا رکوع اور میرا رکوع ایک جیسا نہیں ہو سکتا میں تنہا ہوں وہ ماں بہنیں بازار سے لے کر گزرا ہے ہائے کر کر کے یاد کر کر کے مظلومی ماتم کرتی ہے پڑتی ہے غربت نوحہ وہ جس کے دادا کو آ کر جبریل جھلائیں جھولا لاشا اس کا مزدوروں نے بغداد کے پل پر رکھا ہے ہائے کر کر کے یاد کر کر کے یاد سکینہ کو بغداد کے قیدی نے ہر دم عابد پہ کیا ہے گریا لیکن اکبر اس غربت پر سجاد بھی روتا ہوگا زنجیروں میں تھا جکڑا ہوا جب کاظم نے دم توڑا ہے ہائے کر کر کے یاد سکینہ کو
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء ويا أنيس الفقراء. السلطان أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك ناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.